Good evening and welcome to the April 20th council meeting. Please note that all four of our council members are present. If you'd please stand, Councilwoman Comstock is going to lead us in the flag salute.
Thank you, Mayor. Ladies and gentlemen, please join us while we salute our nation's flag. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Karen. Mr. Ballantyne, are there any agenda additions or revisions?
I have no changes to the agenda, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. In our agenda packet, you'll find our economic development report for March. I encourage everyone to access that and read it. It has some very valuable information. Now for public announcements. First, I want everyone to be aware that this Thursday, April 22nd, from 6 to 7:30 p.m. at the Chino Police Department, the City of Chino, in collaboration with the County of San Bernardino and Chino Valley Unified School District, will be answering any questions and holding a community discussion on the state of homelessness in the City of Chino. While the opportunity to RSVP has passed in order to comply with social distancing requirements, the discussion will also be streamed live on our city's Facebook page at cityofchino.gov. For all questions regarding this event, please call 909-334-3259. Also, please make note that the City of Chino will be holding another installment of its household hazardous waste drop-off program from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Public Works Services Yard located at 5050 Schaefer Avenue this Saturday, April 24th. Here, all Chino residents will be able to safely dispose hazardous household products, including but not limited to electronic waste, household-generated motor oil and oil filters, antifreeze and gasoline, auto and household batteries, pesticides and fertilizers, paint products, including thinners and stains, chemical cleaners, outdated medications. For all questions, please call 909-334-3472. Additionally, please also mark your calendars for this year's free 2021 virtual Earth Day celebration presented by the City of Chino and Inland Empire Utilities Agency. This event is already underway but is accessible to all interested participants up until last day, Saturday, April 24th. Here, all participants will be able to take part in educational activities, learn about sustainability practices and our environmental resources, and learn the chance to receive free giveaways. All participants must register for this event by visiting the City of Chino's website at www.cityofchino.org. For more information, please call 909-334-3472. And lastly, the Chino Corn Feed Run Show and Cruise is happening at the Chino Civic Center here at 13220 Central Avenue this Saturday, April 24th from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. As one of our community's most anticipated events, space for classic cars filled up very quickly. As such, unfortunately, this event will no longer be taking any classic car registrations. However, if you're interested to simply attend the event and check out the amazing array of classic cars, the open header contest from 1 to 2 p.m., and a diverse set of vendor booths, please feel free to come by Chino City Hall. For more information, please visit www.chinocawanas.com. And finally, We sadly will be adjourning tonight's meeting in memory of former Community Services Commissioner James Jim Espinoza, who passed away on March 31st after a brave battle with a long-term illness. Jim certainly dedicated his life to public service. From 1974 to 2002, Jim served the city of Long Beach as a firefighter, a 28-year career underscored by a commitment of service and courage to the Long Beach community. However, prior to retiring from the Long Beach Fire Department, Jim already began to shift into the next phase of his public service career. In 1997, Jim began serving as a Chino Valley Independent Fire District board member, where he applied his vast knowledge of fire and medical experience to help make the Chino Valley Fire District the robust professional organization that we all enjoy today. Prior to his exiting his role as a Chino Valley Fire Department Fire District board member in 2013, Jim was appointed to the Community Services Commission in 2007, where he served up until 2019. During his time on the Fire Board and the Chino Community Services Commission, the entire Chino Valley area experienced vast growth and change. As a board member and commissioner, Jim helped develop a blueprint that would guide the fire department and the community services department to effectively serve a constantly changing and growing community. Jim is survived by his wife Barbara, 3 children, and 3 grandchildren. He will be missed, and our prayers go to the Espinoza family during this very difficult time. Next, our agenda is public comments. Our first written request to speak is Josh Collins from Calvary Chapel, Chino Valley. At this time, I'd like to invite all those who would like to join us in prayer to please stand.
On behalf of Pastor David and Chino Valley, thank you guys for this opportunity, and let's pray. Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for this day, Lord. We just thank you for the way you've blessed this city, Chino. Lord, we ask that your hand would protect everyone here, Lord, the officers, the fire department, the EMTs, Lord, and just the teachers, every aspect of our city, Lord. And we do lift up the Espinoza family, Lord, who just has experienced this loss. Lord, would you comfort them and just be with them. Lord, we love you and thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much, Josh. That's the only written request to speak I have. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to address the council on any item that's not on the agenda? Stubby?
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, councilors. I would just like to augment your comments on Jim Espinoza. Not only did he have a myriad of accomplishments, but that guy had a heart the size of this valley. I never met anyone who didn't think he was the greatest guy. He was just a tremendous asset. And when he left the commission, the Community Services Commission, I think it hurt him more than it hurt the commission. He was a great guy. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. Yeah, my husband and I had the pleasure of going on vacation once with Jim and Barbara, and he was a character, but you're right, he was a very, very compassionate individual. Anyone else would like to address the council on an item that's not on the agenda? Okay, seeing none. Do we have any communication online, Angela? Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda is the consent calendar. We'll take these actions as a whole unless any council member or the public wish to have an item pulled. The council wish to pull any items?
Mayor, I'd like to request item 10 be pulled, please.
Which one?
Item 10.
Item 10, okay, we will pull that
Thank
for
you,
a
ma'am.
report. Any other items wish to be pulled? Okay, then I would entertain a motion in a second. Motion from Councilwoman Comstock, second from Councilman Flores. And the item passes unanimously. This item number 10 is final acceptance of public improvements, tract number 18880. This is to accept the public improvements constructed by VD Chino 39 LLC, located on the south side of Philadelphia, east of Norton Avenue and north of San Bernardino County Flood Control Channel as complete. Chris?
Yes, thank you. Chris Magdosku, city engineer. This item is a closeout item, final acceptance. We haven't seen one in a while. This map was approved by the council in 2014, They constructed off-site public improvements, which included sidewalks, streetlights, curb ramps along the frontage of Norton. And those improvements were completed by the developer appropriately, and we are here tonight to ask for final acceptance. And the developer is actually present tonight as well.
Thank you, Chris.
You're welcome.
Karen, you had comments?
Thank you, Chris. This isn't more for me, Mayor, about the acceptance of the completion and the release of the bonds. This for me is just more of an issue where I visited that site and, you know, into that cul-de-sac area there where Norton dead ends into the flood control channel. And, you know, during a site visit with the city manager as well as Director Ligori down there, we, you know, didn't complete some improvements that could have been done at one point down there to include some sidewalk and some beautification down there. So when you go down there, the sidewalk does end sort of abruptly on the west side of the street, and it's not down there on the east side of the street, which is okay. But when you get into that cul-de-sac, kind of the state that we've left it in it's somewhat unsightly, and it does also, I think, provide for some opportunity for people to go down there in cars and get into the apex of that cul-de-sac and go unseen a little bit because of how the foliage is overgrown there and different things. So I do have a couple of pictures. I asked Angela or staff to have just to show just a couple of pictures. Angela, could you help me with that?
Would you like me to forward those?
Please, sir.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's not working on this one, Jack.
So you can kind of see how the some of the foliage is overgrown there because of the lack of the sidewalk and one more. Do you have another picture there, Chris, of the side there?
Yeah. Sure.
You can kind of see it a little bit better there. That's actually kind of the little bit more cleaner side because it looks like that's the east side of it. The west side is a little bit more overgrown into the cul-de-sac area. But having said that, I think it would be nice if council doesn't have any objection to it, for staff to consider adding this capital improvement project to go in there and do some of those improvements for consideration into the 2021-2022 budget. And that sort of concludes my comments there from Mayor on that subject.
Okay. This item certainly could be part of our budget discussion.
Certainly.
For the Public Works part. So there's no action that can be taken this evening because that was not on the
Yes, ma'am.
agenda. But okay, that can be part of our workshop for the budget. Are there any objections to that? Okay, then we'll discuss that during the budget.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Then with that said, I would entertain a motion and a second for the approval of item number 10. It's been moved by Councilwoman Comstock, second from Councilman Lucio, and the item passes unanimously. Item number 11, this is a public hearing, formation of Community Facilities District 2021-1. This item is to conduct a public hearing, hold a special election, and authorize the formation of CFD number 2021-1. Levy of special taxes and incur bonded indebtedness for the proposed CFD, and approve the introduction of ordinance number 2021-006, levying a special tax to be read by number and title only and waive further reading of the ordinance and approve the acquisition agreement. First, I'd like to declare the public hearing open and ask for a staff from our Director of Finance, Rob Burns.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. In March, the City Council adopted a resolution of intention to form Community Facilities District 2021-1 and the Preserve. Establishing this Community Facilities District will allow the city to collect a facilities tax to pay for the infrastructure for the project, as well as a municipal services tax to pay for public safety services in the area. So tonight's actions would be to adopt the resolutions and the ordinance to finalize the formation process. So with that, I recommend that the City Council adopt the proceedings as outlined by the mayor this evening. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Rob. Do any council members have questions on this item? Okay, no. Then I would like to ask if there's any input from the public or questions. Okay, seeing none, then we'll close the public hearing. At this time, we're ready to call for a motion to approve resolution numbers 2021-024 and 2021-025. Motion from Councilman Lucio. Is there a second? Second from Councilman Comstock. Okay, that item passes unanimously. Now I'd like to call upon Angela, who will open the ballots for the election concerning the bonded indebtedness and special tax levies in CFD 2021-1.
Thank you, Mayor. All ballots have been cast in connection with CFD number 2021-1 bond and special tax election. The results of the election were unanimous, 17 votes in favor of the propositions. Thank you.
Okay, having read the city clerk's statement, I will now entertain a motion to adopt resolutions number 2021-026, certifying the election results along with the introduction of ordinance number 2021-006, authorizing the levy of a special tax and bonded indebtedness within the district. It's been a motion from Councilman Lucio, second from Councilman Flores. First, I'd like to have our city attorney read the ordinance title into the record prior to the actual vote.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council and audience. Before the city council is ordinance number 2021-006, entitled An Ordinance of the City Council of the City of Chino, acting in its capacity as the legislative body of Community Facilities District number 2021-1, Appleche of the City of Chino, authorizing the levy of special taxes within the district, read by title only and waiving further reading. That concludes the reading of the ordinance.
Okay, and the item did pass unanimously. Okay, this concludes that public hearing. Next on the agenda is item number 12, which is the continuance of the April 6, 2021 public hearing that was for the approval of an additional continuation of a public hearing originally scheduled for April 6th. We're continuing it to May 4th regarding the introduction of ordinance number 2021-005. Is Nick available this evening? Nick, would you like to briefly explain what that item was that we're continuing?
So before the council was a ordinance that would propose to modify certain parking regulations within residential zones for personal use commercial vehicles as well as historic commercial vehicles. The staff is working with our prosecuting attorney's office to make modifications to the ordinance, and will be bringing back a modified ordinance at the next meeting.
Thank you very much, Nick. Okay, I now would like a motion and a second to continue this item to May 4th. Motion from Councilman Comstock, second from Councilman Lucio. And the item passes unanimously. Bless you.
So
Item number,
I'm sorry.
Item number 13 under new business, award professional services agreement, right-of-way and other related surveying services around the Chino Airport. This is to award professional services agreement to BKF Engineers of Newport Beach in the amount of $258,516 for the right-of-way and other related land surveying services for perimeter and circulation improvements surrounding Chino Airport. I'd like to ask for a staff report from our city engineer, Chris Magdascu.
Good evening once again, Mayor and City Council. First, I'd like to say that this project is way overdue. We were started working on this when I arrived 2.5 years ago to basically embrace the right-of-way that are needed around the airport, Maryland, Kimball, Euclid, and Flight. So we collaborated with the airport, Department of Airports, to figure out a game plan, because the current game plan is a temporary construction easement on every project that is on their property that they lease. But what started to happen was projects in Ontario were going to be required off-site improvements along Merrill Avenue, which includes street widening within right-of-way that we can't get for them. So we decided we will take on this task of hiring a consultant to prepare right-of-way documents around the entire airport. As you know, Scanell's project. They dedicated the right-of-way. That is complete. So a lot of our efforts will be focused on the balance of Merrill, parts of Flight, and parts of Kimball, and then Euclid as well. So we solicited RFPs in the fall of 2020, conducted interviews earlier this year, secured the funding through the Scanel $5 million that came in mid-February, and we are here before you tonight to say, one, we are ready to award the contract to BKF. I've worked with BKF before. They've worked here before. I know their staff well. They put together a great plan of attack. Therefore, we feel they're the best fit for the project. After tonight, we will begin right away a notice to proceed, and by the end of the year, we should have all the right-of-way documents prepared, ready to go to the airport, which will then go to FAA, which is a long process, and they're going to try to expedite that. And James Jenkins of the airport said if they can get everything at one time, it's a lot easier process to go to the FAA, which is a lot better in the long run. So the efforts are worth that. So that's part of your action tonight is to appropriate funds, non-general fund funds, to offset the cost for procurement of the contract with BKF. That concludes my presentation. I'm happy to take any specific questions.
Thank you very much, Chris.
You're welcome.
Are there any questions of Chris from the council?
I just have, so BKF, you said they've done work here before. What's one of the projects that they've handled here in the city?
There was a storm drain project that they finished. I believe there was one more in process in the capital project team. I can't remember which one, but I know they've been under one project.
And no issues?
No issues, no.
Any other questions or comments?
And once it's done, how many lanes of traffic are we going to have around that airport?
Well, Kimball will be 2 lanes each way. Flight is 1 lane each way, which you see now. And then Merrill will be 2 lanes. It'll be different on the Ontario side in terms of width, but it'll be 2 lanes. And what happens is the right-of-way will change at intersections as you widen it out for a left turn pocket or right turn pocket. That's why this took a little longer than we wanted, because we wanted to wait for those projects to come in to get the correct right-of-way, because once we go to the airport, we don't want to go back to FAA. So that'll be your build-out around the airport over the next 3 years.
Are we going to get rid of that big ditch on the side?
Yes, they are.
That's
They mean
Ontario.
Ontario.
Okay.
Yes, that will go away.
Yeah, our portion of Chino is to the center of that street, and that was done on purpose many, many years ago so that we wouldn't have to take the responsibility of that big ditch. That's Ontario's responsibility.
So the timing is perfect because the projects have been entitled. They're under plan check with us or plan check in Ontario. We're having great conversations with the airport, so the timing's better now than ever. But then the time is of the essence to get the contract awarded, get them underway, and I'll be handling that throughout the year.
I have one more question, Mayor.
Yes.
Chris, I was reading BKF's statement of understanding of the project that they had in the report, and one of the things they talked about is monuments and just some of the beautification that already exists there. Does that come in this part of the project when they're talking about the public right of way, or will that come later when we're actually doing the work? Because it would be nice to make sure we have a beautification component, because it's such a prominent area around the airport. Is that part of the project during this time or later?
That will be later, or will be built with the offsite improvements.
Okay.
Just a quick, make sure to clarify, what the airport does is they enter into a temporary construction easement. It's basically a temporary, you can build on my property, and that's what's been done with some other projects. To get the proper right-of-way, then we're done. Then we'll have it recorded, it'll be complete, so that when they build improvements, they'll build it within the entire right-of-way. Right now, you see partial improvements on some of that because they only go so far to give you a curb. We want to see more than that as we get the right-of-way. Then they can improve. And the projects in Ontario will be improving the right-of-way as well.
Sure, it's gonna be nice, and like you said, long overdue, and it'd be nice to make sure we make that, the gateway into there, because as you go down, like on the Calero and stuff, there's nice monuments there, and of course, we've done a few others, but certainly on that corner as well, it'd be nice to enter into something with the airport.
We'll let the airport know your thoughts on that. I know they have a master plan underway right now. Yeah.
That master plan has been underway for years and years and years, and I'm kind of curious to see if the county's ever really going to do anything with that land.
Yeah. Well, I was on a selection committee for part of that project late last year, and it was a real estate. It was an interesting proposal. They have an interesting approach to how they want to procure projects on their property, and it's going to be different. So
Well, I would
watching.
request that we watch the county very carefully with that airport because they're a little infamous for not putting any funding into the airport. So we may want to beautify some of that airport land, but without the county's cooperation and funding, because it is their property, we're not going to get too much.
But this will just prepare the legal and plat, which is the legalized documents to get the right-of-way.
Yeah, I mean, regardless, we have to,
Yeah.
get that road improved. That's gonna be nice for the
Absolutely.
whole community down there, so thanks, Chris.
You're
Good job.
welcome.
Okay, are there any comments from the audience or questions? Okay, seeing none, that I would entertain a motion in a second. It's a motion from Councilman Comstock, second from Councilman Lucio, and the item passes unanimously. Item number 14, automated license plate reader program. This item is to authorize a sole source purchase and increase vendor cap in the amount of $116,666.21 for the purchase of 13 additional automated license plate readers from Vigilant Solutions and increase Siemens Mobility vendor cap by $15,995. Our report this evening will be provided by our chief, Wes Simmons.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. Our automated license plate reader program has been extremely successful. It has helped us recover stolen vehicles while also preventing crimes and allowing us to investigate other crimes. This success is best indicated by the 271 stolen vehicles we have recovered and the 342 arrests that were made just since January of 2019. The first phase of this project occurred in 2017 when you authorized us to install 36 ALPR cameras at 11 intersections as depicted on the project map with the red arrows. The second phase occurred in 2020 when you authorized us to add 27 additional ALPR cameras, which are indicated on the map with the green arrows. And then this third phase of the project, which we are requesting you to authorize tonight, will fund 13 additional ALPR cameras, one of which would be mobile so we could move it around the city as needed. And those are indicated on the project map by the purple arrows. And I think it's important to note that all phases of this project has been or is requested to be funded through our law enforcement specific developer impact fees and law enforcement specific Proposition 30 funds. So in summary, I'm requesting that you authorize a sole source purchase for 13 additional automated license plate readers, including the associated equipment and software licenses to Vigilant Solutions at the cost of $116,686.21 and increase the city's vendor cap for Siemens Mobility in the amount of $15,995 for the installation costs, and authorize the city manager to execute all documents on behalf of the city. So that concludes my report, and I'm available to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you very much, Wes. Are there any questions of the chief? No? Karen, you don't have any questions or comments?
It's just been a very, very successful project, Wes. We're proud of the work you do, and these license plate readers have been just invaluable, as you've stated. So thank you for all the work that the success you're having with them. So thank you.
Any comments from the audience? Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion. And oops, we do have a question. Sir, would you like to come up, please? State your name for the record, please. Now, right where the tall one. There you go.
Eduardo Rochin.
Eduardo?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just wanted to ask what the cameras were going to be funded by.
It's hard to understand you.
I wanted to ask what the cameras were going to be funded by.
What they're going to be funded by?
Yeah.
Okay, Wes?
Yep. So developer impact fees. So anytime a developer builds something in the city, they have to set aside a certain portion for law enforcement. It can only be used for that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, with that, I would entertain a motion in a second. Motion from Councilman Flores, second from Councilwoman Comstock, and the item passes unanimously. I think our constituency also, Wes, is very happy about those cameras because of the number of stolen cars that have been recovered and the thieves that have been taken off the street. Absolutely. Item number 15, this addresses our Councilman Hargrove's District 2 vacancy. I'd like to adopt resolution number 2021-027, which declares a vacancy on the City Council for District Number 2, resulting from the passing of Councilmember Mark Hargrove, and consider options to fill the vacancy. And we're going to ask for a staff report this evening from our City Manager Ballantyne.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. As the mayor's mentioned, the city experienced a significant loss with the passing of Councilmember Mark Hargrove. Before the council this evening is a resolution to simply declare the vacancy. Per the government code, we have 60 days to make a decision on how we want to fill that vacancy. One option is to appoint an individual, which needs to be completed within 60 days, which the vacancy took place, which would be, the end date would be May 28th of this year. The second option is to declare an election or call for an election. And that election would take place in November of 2021. Attached to your staff report is a cost estimate of what that election would be, an estimate, and it's at the tune of $249,000. The reason why it's significant is because we're one of the only agencies that are having an election at that time. If there were more agencies out there having an election, we would share in the cost. So it is a significant expense. It's important to note that whoever is elected in 2021, if that's the decision that the council would like to make, is they would only serve for a period of 1 year. And we'd have to have another election in 2022 when the seat is up. Should you decide to appoint an individual, that person will fulfill the rest of Councilmember Hargrove's term, which expires in November of 2022. So staff recommends the council adopt the resolution, which declares the vacancy, and then gives staff direction as to whether or not you would like to appoint an individual or call for an election. And based on that decision, we'll bring back at the next meeting a discussion on one of those two options. And that concludes my report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Matt. I'll jump in here since I've been through this once before when we had a council member resign. What was chosen to be done at that time, which I think is appropriate for this time, is to actually appoint someone for the year, a little bit more than a year. It would save the city about almost $50,000. The request at that time, and I would like to make the request at this time also, is that we look at appointing someone who does not have an intention of running in next year's election. That takes any political maneuvering out of the picture, and it gives everyone who is interested in running for that seat in 2022 an even playing field. So my personal preference would be to ask to direct our staff to put this up for an appointment, and that appointment will be discussed at our next council meeting. So if there's no objection, I would ask for a motion and a second for that. Any comments?
Now, on the appointment, I remember before, several years ago, I remember reading in the Chino Champion that we set a criteria and said that the person had to live within the district that they were representing, that, and we said, is that the same thing we're going to do this time? We're going to set a criteria for that?
It does have to be someone that lives within that district. Now, keeping in mind also the other thing that's going to change for 2022.
Boundaries.
Because, right, the boundaries are going to change because of the census. And we don't know how those boundaries are going to change. So I think it's appropriate to select someone from the current boundaries, which then when we find out the new boundaries, it gives everyone in that geographical area an opportunity to run in 2022 for it.
That's correct. Our municipal code says that the person has to be selected out of District 2, and it's defined in the municipal code.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, then I would entertain a motion, please. Motion from Councilman Lucio, second from Councilman Comstock. Item passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, next on the agenda is mayor and council reports, and I have a little bit of a long report this time. All of the meetings that I attended during the last couple of weeks were all virtual. On the Wednesday, April 7th, I attended the Omnitrans Board of Directors. Due to budget constraints and COVID impacts, many of the Omnitrans routes were completely eliminated or reduced. There were several triggers that, if met, will establish or increase routes once again. Hopefully, schools reopening and reduced social distancing guidelines will help ridership resume, which will contribute to better service. There are several public hearings being planned in the future regarding service resumption, so hopefully we'll see some increased routes. We also reviewed the updated strategic plan. Omnitrans is looking at innovative partnerships in order to expand their service and funding streams and the importance of regional interconnectivity. Along those same lines, the San Bernardino County Transportation Authority intends to construct the Ontario Airport Loop Project, a subsurface tunnel to serve as a direct connection between the Ontario Airport and Rancho Cucamonga Metrolink station. The tunnel will be designated and designed to use zero-emission rubber tire vehicles, which may be manned vehicles at the start of the operation, but are planned to be autonomous vehicles when practical. Now, the RFQ included a provision that the developer deliver the project for a total not to exceed public contribution of $45 million and an allocated not to exceed annual operations and maintenance subsidy of $1.5 million, escalating at 3.5% annually. Omnitrans has the ability to receive funds directly from the Federal Transit Administration that can then be passed through to SBCTA. SBCTA plans to use $10 million in congestion mitigation and air quality funds administered by the FTA in addition to other financial resources to fund the initial project development efforts for this project. So Omnitrans would serve as the operation oversight agency for the project. It's quite an innovative project that they're undertaking. Then I virtually attended the San Bernardino County Transportation Authority Board of Directors, and on that board, they approved staff to begin discussions for Omnitrans to become the designation operation oversight agency for that future Ontario Loop project. The board also approved a baseline agreement for Phase 1 of the West Valley Connector Rapid Bus Transit Project, which will eventually run from Pomona through Montclair and Ontario, terminating at Victoria Gardens. Thursday, April 8th, I attended the Watermaster Appropriative Pool meeting. It was further discussion and decisions are needed in order to determine if the 2023 Recharge Master Plan update is to include new capital improvements to increase wet water recharge in the Chino groundwater basin. If the decision is to consider new capital improvement projects, the FY 21-22 budget will need to be increased to cover that effort. Ongoing discussions continue. And then I also attended the Watermaster Appropriate Pool confidential session. On Thursday, the 15th, I attended the Appropriate Pool confidential session once again and attended the San Bernardino County Transportation Authority Metro Valley study session. For those utilizing Metrolink, final design activities for additional bike lanes, wayfinding signs, improved sidewalks and crosswalks, and other items began in January to improve pedestrian and bicycle access to 5 Metrolink stations in San Bernardino County. Those stations are in the cities of Montclair, Upland, Rancho Cucamonga, Fontana, and San Bernardino. The improvements are primarily funded by a $6.1 million grant, which is supplemented with contributions by each of those cities for support costs. Final design is anticipated to be completed in the first quarter of 2022, with construction starting by the end of 2022. Virtually attended the Watermaster Recharge Improvement Project Committee meeting. We reviewed the Clean Water State Revolving Fund loans, or PAYGO status of the current recharge basin projects. Approximately $28 million costs and approximately $15 million in grants, with the remaining balance of approximately $13 million to be paid for by Watermaster parties within the Inland Empire Utilities Agency paying their fair share of projects that recharge recycled water. Also reviewed the overall budget status with Water Master staff. There's approximately $2.1 million in budget left over from completed projects that's not currently allocated to any of the current projects. That money could be allocated to other recharge projects in the future if all parties agreed to do so. It's unknown so far if there will be any new recharge projects until further discussion. And then also, I remind everybody, don't forget about the corn feed run this weekend. It's our first major event since COVID started. It's going to be a lot of fun, so come out and see your friends and enjoy the classic cars. It's always a good event, and we're really looking forward to getting back to some kind of normalcy. Okay, with that, I will call on Mayor Pro Tem Lucio.
Thank you. On April 14th, I virtually attended the Chino Valley Fire District meeting. They had a couple different things on the agenda. One was that they were formally announcing that they're looking for a new fire chief with Chief Shackelford retiring. They also had a discussion about lifting some sanctions on, or lifting some of the things that they had on Board Member Williams. It looks like they did decide to lift that and give him some I guess different things that he can be a representative for the fire district. So it looks like they're moving forward and things are looking up as far as them getting along. I too am looking forward to two events this weekend because really there hasn't been anything really happening too much in the city. So I'm going to look forward to going to the Corporate Challenge or opening day ceremony. I think it's important that we start getting back out there and doing things. Mm-hmm. And then same thing with the corn feed run car show. And if anybody could kind of just give the people that are watching this telecast kind of what might they expect. Is there going to be social distancing? Are they going to have booths? How are they going to set that up so that they have an understanding of what to expect when they come? I know masks will probably be something that people have to wear, but I wasn't sure if they were going to have food booths and stuff like that. But if somebody could discuss that. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we're very fortunate this evening to have four and counting Chino Kiwanis Club members in
Are we having the corn?
In the room.
Yeah.
And our mayor, who's a member of our club as well. So we will have social distancing. We're encouraging mask wearing. The cars are going to be kind of spaced out more than we would normally have. The vendor booths, there are going to be less of them. Those will also be spaced out. So everything's going to kind of occupy more space. The Kiwanis Club will not be serving our fabulous breakfast burritos, unfortunately, but we have 3 food trucks that are coming to provide food, both breakfast and lunch. And we still have lots of great raffle prizes, same great trophies, T-shirts, and it's going to start at dark 30. So, the sooner you come, the better parking you get. And it should be a really, really nice event. We're really looking forward to it. So.
I appreciate it.
It's going to be fun.
And then I just want to end with, we know that there was a verdict that came in with George Floyd's trial, not his trial, but as a result of his death. And it looks like, for the most part, there is no activity that's going on in the city of Los Angeles or in the county areas. But I pray that that continues and that peace continues and that we don't see any riots or looting that occurs in our communities. So I just ask people to think before they act and let's move forward and heal as a community. And that's all I have. Thanks.
Comments, further violence just hurts more people. Doesn't resolve any issues. Councilmember Comstock.
Thank you, Mayor. On April 7th, I attended the panel lifting ceremony for a new development at the corner of Kimball and Flight. It's a very nice project they're putting up there that's bringing some good development improvements to this area, so that was fun. Councilman Flores happened to drop in as well. They had the In-N-Out truck there as kind of a ceremonial thing, and it was pretty nice. Met some of the people that were working on that project, and they were real proud to be, in Chino, so it was nice. On April 8th, I went down to the Public Works Yard and thanked the crew for all their hard work that they perform each day. And also to thank them for working during the pandemic. It was real difficult along with some of our other first responders. It was a great staff turnout. It provided some pizza, so that always helps to get people out, to a meeting. I also took some time to explain to staff why I decided to run for city council, and just shared some of my thoughts and visions for the future of the city. So it was nice to see the crew down there. And a lot of people don't know that, but I began my career down there as a police cadet, and I see Sergeant MacGyver down there. We were cadets together, shuffling cars back and forth to the city yard to get them repaired and washed. So it brings back good memories to go down there. On April 12th, I attended the Celebration of Life services for Raymond Santoyo. It was a great service, and I would just like to say that the Chino Valley Fire District did a great job for the Santoyo family and to honor Raymond and his service to our community and to the fire district. So his loss is tough, but boy, they did a good job honoring him out there. On April 14th, I actually met with Larry Walker and a staff member by the name of Chris Corbin, just to get some feedback on his thoughts on both of their thoughts on housing and past successful, particularly one successful housing project we brought to Chino in the bridge. I do realize that Chris has been out of housing for some time, but I was interested in know how we brought the bridge to Chino when he and Chuck go over here, and just get some of that feedback and learn from him. So it was fun talking to Chris about that, and I actually think for a minute he enjoyed talking about housing for a little bit too. So that was nice. On April 19th, I attended a meeting with the city manager and members of the PD staff. We actually went down to the homecoming complex, and there was a very robust attendance from the Lewis group of companies, including Mr. Randall Lewis himself. And it was a very sincere meeting about just public safety and quality of life moving forward. As you know, that's a very, very nice complex that they have down there. In fact, we sat inside of their, I guess it's called their community room or area there, but it's nice. And they just had a few concerns about some activity that's been recently happening down there. And we, as a staff, were able to provide them with some feedback and some suggestions in order to more along the vetting of their tenants and just some security measures to help keep that complex, that the good quality and the high quality is. And like I said, I was very impressed that Randall was there himself and took some of the suggestions to heart. So hopefully I also know they're already working with PD staff to implement some of the suggestions we've already given them. So that was nice as well. Mayor, I have some really fantastic news to share tonight. Bickmore Avenue is open, and I think that's great.
Good.
Yes, finally. We've been waiting for Bickmore to open for quite some time, so I just want to thank Director Ligori, certainly Dennis Rawls and Chris Magdosku. I know you guys went down there with KB, I believe it was, just trying to shave days and hours off of getting that open. My biggest fear is we were going to get to the end of this timeline and have some other setback that we couldn't have anticipated. So much thanks to Chris and Dennis for getting that open. I know a lot of Preserve residents were very happy as well. Now, the bad news is I'm already getting reports of trucks driving on it, but that probably isn't a surprise to anybody here. So I have had a chance to speak with the city manager, and I know he's speaking with the chief of police about some strategies we need to have. We should probably consider, continue to consider, as trucks become more prolific in and around the preserve. And I have spoken to people. I'm like, hey, trucks aren't just a problem in the preserve; they're a problem throughout the entire city of Chino. In fact, I spoke to a constituent down there today by the name of Seth Halverson. Sorry, not Seth Halverson. Yes. Seth Halverson is his name, and was explaining to him, hey, I live over here on the west side of Chino, over by Don Lugo, and there's not a day that goes by I don't see 3 or 4 trucks on Chino Avenue coming off Highway 71. So it'd be nice to talk with staff and see if we can get some some definitive strategy on that moving forward. My sympathy is as well to the Espinoza family. I had bumped into Jim's wife and his daughter walking at Ayala Park just a few weeks ago. And they had mentioned to me that Jim was sick, but I didn't realize he was that sick. And a couple people have said here tonight, talk about a man with a big heart and did a lot of good for our community. So he will be missed. Just too many, good people seem like in the past few months. A lot of profound loss to our community in service, with people who've really served our community for a long time. And last but certainly not least, I am also looking forward to the opening ceremonies of Corporate Challenge this weekend and the Corn Feed Run. It's going to be hopefully a fun weekend in Chino. I feel like there's light at the end of the tunnel with some of our things coming back, and not just for our community, like Mayor Pro Tem Lucio talked about, just getting back to socializing and living and out of our houses and off of screens. And I do know that there's a lot of people who still have a lot of reservation about attending some of these public events, and that's okay. I certainly can understand some of that reservation. So if you feel like you can come, then go. But if you feel like you can't go, then it's okay to get some pictures and see the highlights of it at a different time. But for people that are comfortable in going, I look forward to seeing a lot of good friends, a lot of good people this weekend at some of these events. That concludes my report, Mayor. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Karen. Councilmember Flores.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. April 16th, I attended the Chino Movie Night pop-up drive, which was last Friday, and I gotta say it was a pretty great event. I just, one reason why I ran was because I just love seeing the happy faces on most of our residents, and that's exactly what I seen that day. And but what I am excited for is the next movie night, which is going to be held here, and on our lawn. So I'm excited about that. I'm not going to be inside a car this time. I'm going to be outside, and we're going to be here on the lawn. So that's pretty cool.
What's the movie, Chris? What movie?
Oh, it was Onward.
What's gonna be shown?
Oh, this Sunday. Oh, next. Let's see. It's The Croods 2. Never seen it, so that's why I'm excited to be a part of it. Yeah. And yesterday, I attended the Chino Valley Chamber of Commerce board meeting. It was a virtual meeting, and that went pretty well. And just to kind of conclude here, I know, some of the council had mentioned, they're excited about this Saturday, and trust me, I'm excited about this Saturday as well. But one thing I want to add, and I'm really looking forward to, is next Wednesday, I know it's the reopening of our Chino Youth Museum, and that's right here, right across the street from City Hall. So that's something I'm definitely looking forward to as well. But that being said, that concludes my reports, Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much. City Manager Ballantyne.
Yes, Mayor and Council, I have two items. First, wanted to announce Councilmember Hargrove's Celebration of Life ceremony or services will take place on Saturday, May 8th at 11 a.m., and that'll be held at the Calvary Chapel, Chino Hills Church. So the public certainly is welcome to attend those services. And then lastly, there's been a lot of money that's coming out from Washington, D.C., and certainly there's the rescue plan and where the city stands to receive roughly $14 million. And there's restrictions on how that money can be used. But in addition to that, there's infrastructure grants that are being provided, and our congressional district is allotted a certain amount, and I believe it's up to $10 million, of which we've applied for a grant application of $5 million towards the Pine Avenue connection. We're getting closer to wrapping up the construction documents, and we did apply. I want to thank all the other neighboring agencies that have sent letters of support. We've also had businesses that have lend their support towards that project because it does have an impact on them. And so I want to thank those folks, but certainly if there's members of the community that want to advocate on behalf of the city of Chino and the completion of that project, sending in a note to our representative, Congresswoman Norma Torres, would be certainly welcome. That's it. That concludes my reports. Thank you.
Thank you. City Attorney Galante.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. Just one item I wanted to highlight. Recently, Senator Scott Wiener introduced SB 210, and because we've just recently considered this license plate reader item, this specifically addresses privacy rights on license plate reader use. And his proposal is to require these annual audits and assure that police departments do not maintain databases for longer than 24 hours unless the particular item or the particular user of the license plate is on a hot list. So presumably that could limit your police departments, the efficiency of and effectiveness of these license plate readers. So we thought that that could be a piece of legislation that could negatively impact your ability to use this. So I'll work with your city manager and your police chief to perhaps put a comment letter on behalf of the city. And that concludes my comments.
Absolutely.
And I think it's important that we do something about that, because we don't just pick up stolen cars from that. We investigate burglaries, robberies. As you know, a lot of times before people commit crimes, they go and they case out the location. So it's imperative when you have these type of devices that you store some of this information, because it'll help you investigating crimes. So by him eliminating that and only doing 24 hours, that defeats the whole purpose of collecting a database to investigate crimes, not to monitor citizens that are just not doing anything, but to make sure that we have an investigative tool out there to investigate people that are actively going out into neighborhoods, casing neighborhoods, and looking to commit crimes.
It's very concerning that there's more and more legislature coming out that ties the hands of police officers to try to protect the innocent people instead of always seeming to be more concerned about the perpetrator than the people that are being victimized.
I agree, Mayor Pro Tem Lucio. These databases, when they're used properly and responsibly with good policy, and again, when we do data inquiries into that, as with approval, right? Need to know, right to know, not just randomly going through these. It's important for the public to understand that we don't go into those databases improperly. And I'm sure Chief Simmons will be working with California police chiefs, and that if their legislative analyst is still Jonathan Feldman, I'm sure we'll be working hard along with the other like Sheriff's Association and others to hopefully thwart that piece of legislation, because it would be very, very horrible for those databases and for our investigative tools that way. So thank you.
Exactly. Chief Simmons. Oh, anything else, Fred?
That'll do it.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, and City Attorney Galante, I appreciate you bringing that up, and we have looked at that legislation, and we are crafting a response that we would like to send as a city in regards to that. And if you remember, before we enacted our license plate reader system, we had a community forum, and we met with our community. And those were some of the issues that were brought up by the community, and we talked about it. We agreed to only retain data, not indefinitely, which I don't agree with. Those are my privacy rights too. There has to be an end date on that. And we agreed that 1 year was proper. That allows us to investigate crimes, because a lot of times when a crime occurs, either the victim doesn't know it, and so they report it later, or they're reluctant to report it at the time. And so this gives them an opportunity to report that crime and allow us to then follow up. And the second thing to that is an audit. We do an audit, and it's required by our policy every year to audit that information to make sure it's used properly and somebody's not using it for nefarious reasons. So those things are already in place. I think like a lot of legislation at the state level, they're trying to create a legislation for a problem that doesn't exist. And we need to educate them on that. And I think if we look back to a year ago, just almost 11 months ago, May 25th, we all witnessed George Floyd being killed on TV. We saw that video, and we were horrified about that. And myself, along with law enforcement leaders across this country, condemned those actions. And here we are 11 months later, and that officer has been held accountable. If our officers do something wrong, we're going to hold them accountable. But if criminals do something wrong, we also need to hold them accountable. And if you remember a year ago, because of everything that was going on, George Floyd included, we hosted a community forum. And at that time, we shared that we wanted to host one for our youth. And due to school being out and not in person, we weren't able to do that, but I'm pleased to report tonight that we're going to be hosting that youth student forum next week. Our school resource officers are going to run that with students from our local high schools. Now, we can't have it open again because of COVID, but we're going to videotape that and then put that, out to our community so they can see it. So I'm very happy that we're going to have the opportunity to do that with our students, because I know they have a lot of questions, and to be able to have that dialogue in that forum with just them and the school resource officers that they have a relationship with, I think is going to be very useful. And then I wanted to touch on the truck route sites. So probably over the past month, I think we've written close to 300 or more truck route sites just down in the preserve. And so yes, there is a problem down there, and we are addressing that. Part of the problem, as is mentioned tonight, is the roadways. And I know the city manager, as others have been working hard to get Ontario to open their section of Merrill, which is what is impacting us, is the only way for those trucks to get there is through the south and the west. Once Merrill's open, connected to Archibald, I think that's going to relieve a lot of our problems. But our officers have been educating those truck drivers one at a time with a very expensive citation. And lastly, I just wanted to give my condolences as well to Jim Espinoza's family. He was a great man. I enjoyed talking with him at council meetings and at different events, and he's certainly going to be missed.
Chief, can I also have you kind of cover the homeless forum that we're hosting?
Absolutely. So that's this Thursday. As the mayor mentioned, we had to close our in-person RSVPs because we got to limit the number of people who are there, but it's going to be broadcast Facebook Live, so people can tune into that. We're going to discuss the issues that we're having here in our city as a result of some of the state policies and things that are going on, and be able to share with the community what it is that we're doing with that problem and how we're trying to address it. And I would share just right now with everybody that our team with community services and the social work action group are getting 2 to 3 people off the streets every week. I mean, they're having a tremendous success, but unfortunately, 2 to 3 leave, more coming, and I don't see that slowing down. People who want housing in the city of Chino, we can get them a place to live.
Wes, will there be questions through the Facebook platform?
Yes, we've asked people to submit questions, and we will, as time allows, bring those questions up and be able to address them.
Okay. I'd also like to know, as you mentioned, about a year ago, we had that community forum, and it was very, very informative. We had spoken very quickly that night, very shortly that night, that maybe there should be subsequent forums like that to keep community involvement. Has there been any planning for another community forum like that?
So it's certainly on our mind. Our next step was the youth forum, and then as we move forward, we'd like to do that. I would like to be able to do one when we can hold it in person, and I think we're really close to being able to do that.
Okay, because I think that was really valuable.
I do too.
And I think keeping the lines of communication open is critical, especially now with all the troubling times that we're going through.
Yeah, these are important issues that are not over. We need to continue to discuss these and as a country move forward and progress.
I agree. Okay, we'll look forward to more information about that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Wes.
All right.
Okay, Fire Representative, Mr. Cook.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members, and staff. We want to take a moment to remind all of our property owners that the weed abatement and vegetation clearance needs to be completed by April 26th. Sadly, we're predicting another significant fire season similar to the destructive one that we had last year. The vegetation is already dry, and we've had a handful of vegetation fires in the area already recently. We all need to do our part to work together as a team to reduce the risk of vegetation fires. So please ensure that you have your property cleared by April 26th. And we also want to thank you and recognize the kind words of former board member Jim Espinoza and his contributions to the Chino Valley area. Our thoughts and prayers continue to be with Barbara and the entire Espinoza family. He will be deeply missed. And then lastly, we also want to take a moment to let the city staff and certainly the city council members and the family and friends of Councilmember Hargrove know that you all continue to be in our thoughts and prayers. And we are so incredibly thankful for his sacrifice to our community at large. So thank you very much and have a good evening.
Well, it was so wonderful also of the department to come out for his birthday drive-by as well. Even the big ladder truck, which I still cannot believe you got into that cul-de-sac. That was amazing.
It was an honor to be there. Thank you.
Well, I know he was real touched by that.
Yeah,
Thank you,
absolutely.
Nathan.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Okay, with that, we will adjourn to our regular meeting that will be held on Tuesday, May 4th at 7 o'clock with closed session starting at 6 if needed. With that, we are adjourned.